The lights will be on in a minute. We'll bring them all up. We have Dan Schechter, who's the writer-director of this fantastic film. We have cast members, Justin Long and Kate Berland and Nick, forgetting Nick's last name, and producer Courtney Johnson and Richard Schiff, the special guest who was the dad in this. So if everybody wants to come on down, and we'll get started. First, I'm having a round of applause for this great film. Yeah, I'll say. Nick and Glassing, sorry about that. See if we can get the lights on a little higher.
Somebody was on it.
So this is Dan Schechter and Richard Schiff with Popcorn, Kate Berlant in the black, Justin Long, Dan, and Nick right there, and Courtney. Come on, Courtney, stand up. Stand up and do this. Sit. She Courtney, you sit.
Thanks for coming out, familiar faces. I appreciate it.
Independent film is just not. It's an act of God. It's a miracle that any movie gets made, particularly independent films, and especially ones that are personal and about real people having real emotions and real personalities and people that we know. And it's always fascinating how these movies are put together, how they actually make them happen. So I want to start with that and ask our writer-director, where did it come from? How did it all begin? And Courtney, also as a producer, feel free to jump in with any of your story about this.
Obviously, I was a teacher for several years in colleges around New York, and I was sort of bad at it and really scared of the students at the same time. And I kept putting my foot in my mouth as they were looking, I think, for opportunities. I think, to their credit, to mirror activism that they saw, on social media, on TV, and in their lives. It meant a lot to them. But it was also while Trump was running, and Me Too, and Black Lives Matter, and it was just a powder keg of complicated feelings, and I wanted to explore what I didn't like on both sides of that.
So this was pretty recently then?
Yeah.
4 years ago, 4 years ago?
I remember when I taught there, I was there in like 2000, Nick was actually one of my students. I was there in like 2016, 17, that time, and I remember the teachers there were like, it's not like it changed in the last 10 years, it just changed in the last 2 years. And 2 other professors left when I left. I think the school was it was outside the city, it was a bit in a bubble. And then at the same time, my grandma, we had an experience that was, very similar, obviously, where she went to a hospital, and 8 days later she passed away, and it was a very kind of beautiful death in a lot of ways, and surrounded by love, and I was just thinking a lot about generations, I guess. Yeah.
So it happened in your real life, both events happened at the same time, teaching and your grandma dying? Yeah,
and then you throw fictional things in and try to throw people off your scent a little bit. For example, I don't have an awesome sister like Kate. I wish I did. And then I went to Courtney Johnson.
I read the script about 2.5 years ago and really enjoyed it. Could connect to it in many ways. No, I was never a teacher, but obviously grandparents. And then we kind of worked through the script a lot and got Justin on board and just kind of went from there.
What's the process with a film like this, where obviously it's a limited budget, limited shooting schedule, all that, and no guarantees of anything, to get such a great cast together? How does that work?
I can let them speak. I think it's probably the script, maybe.
Justin, what brought you to the project? How did you?
They just paid me a ton of money. Yeah. I hadn't read the script.
So it's not on the screen.
Just back the money truck. Beep, beep. I love the script. Actually, Doug Benson, who is standing casually in the back of the audience, texted me and he said, Doug, I really valued his opinion, and he said, my friend has the script, can I send it? So it was kind of done that way, and
Yeah, Dan, was it FaceTime? Was it Skype? I can't remember. We talked, and it was just I was very flattered to be asked, and it's fun to talk to Dan, and amazing cast, and
Here you are.
here I
Richard,
here I am.
I still haven't said yes. I don't know how this happened.
You did a good job anyway.
No, it's when you do projects with this kind of cash reward. You want to do projects that speak to you, that are personal. Every great story in the end is about family. And I think Dan created a place for us to explore, what that means to be a part of an extremely dysfunctional but loving family, and to work out how they all work things through with each other. And with some wonderful humor and truthfulness. You look for a sense of the truth when you're telling stories, and if it doesn't start with the writing, then you're in a pickle. But when it does start with the writing, it becomes joy, and that's what this was.
Now, you were a student of Dan's, yes? And then, is this the first thing you
Very
acted?
quiet student.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I was a student of dance. I worked on the movie in pre-production, and then I was able to, I was like in charge of casting, and I kind of, well, not in charge of casting. I was helping with casting, and I like put a picture of myself on the wall, like to suggest that I should be in the movie, and that ended up working. And yeah, I was lucky, and then that is true. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And then I was able to work on the movie in post-production, so I got like a extra film school out of it, which was really cool, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
He plays Cousin Alan.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. But what about continuing acting? Is this something?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Well, you are.
Oh, thank you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I just got my SAG card, which is cool, and yeah, I'm flying out Sunday for a couple episodes of a Netflix show, which is fun. Yeah.
And everybody else is going to continue acting after this? Is that going to be the swan song?
If the money stays this good.
So Dan, this movie, it has sort of like a dual track going on, and it's. By the way, I'm Gary Goldstein. I'm a film reviewer at the Los Angeles Times. I didn't introduce myself.
He gave us a good review.
Yeah, so that's why. You've got a dual track going on. You've got what happens in school, and you have the family, and then they do intersect, and we see Josh's maturity and how he changes through kind of both tracks, and especially at the end how he ends up talking to Jennifer and all of that. I love the fact that she says, "No, I'm not going to come back to your class."
Thanks.
Yeah. But how did you approach? Because the whole political correctness thing, the whole PC thing is very tricky, and yet you approach it in a way that feels very even-handed. You don't make fun of it, but we do laugh a bit at it. We're laughing at what we're all trying to navigate in terms of that world. How did you? It's a tightrope. How did you handle it?
I was lucky enough to have real experiences, so that kind of real life tends to have more nuance probably than what you would see in a film. But the movie's not a satire at all. If it seems that way, then you haven't been on a college campus in a while. It really was like, or more ridiculous at times. Of course, I had students who were, very eager to learn and there, but I think what shocked me most was how they just did not assume the teacher was an authority figure. You were an authority figure if they deemed you so, but they didn't come into the class thirsty for knowledge. They almost wanted to teach you things about the world, and some things they did teach me, but I was left with a frustrating feeling that I had more I could have given them, and that's of course what we want to do. And then, the stuff tying both of those movies together, some of it's conscious as you're writing, and some of it's unconscious, and some things maybe I'll figure out down the line, but I think the authority thing, it was like sometimes parents can act like kids, and sometimes kids can get to an age where they offer you some perspective, and sometimes teachers can be students, and students can be teachers, and those were some of the things I was trying to mess with.
Were you ever worried that people might misinterpret your approach to the PC?
Of course. Yeah. We were terrified. We were so terrified to play the film at Tribeca because we assumed, based on this culture, that we were just going to have bad faith attacks immediately on us. This movie, which in a way is valid, this movie is almost innocent till proven, guilty till proven innocent. Which I get. I observe a movie and I'm aware that a white man maybe made that movie and you might judge it differently, and of course it's fun when you win people over, but I think because we weren't advocating for either side of this argument, but just to have a conversation about what is so fucking obviously complicated and tricky, it seemed like there was an appetite that we met for just meeting in the middle and not being so goddamn certain about how you felt about something.
The use of words like triggered and unsafe and all of that, they feel so, and we hear them so often, and there's such validity to the words, and yet they can be overused and kind of misinterpreted and,
Yeah.
and all that. It's like I said, I think the movie did a great job sort of balancing that and not coming out on either side of it, but just sort of letting the audience decide for themselves.
I went into that job definitely with a more dismissive attitude towards the idea of safe spaces and trigger warnings, which isn't to say I'm a full convert either, I'm not. But I think I had a typical argument, which is, hey kids, you can't make the world a safe space, and college is to challenge you, and of course that's true. But there was an instance in one of my classrooms, not this, I didn't do what he did, although I easily could have, for sure. I saw a student become triggered by a film I played. It was very intense. It was clear that she was suffering, I think, a post-traumatic stress syndrome through something she went through. And going through the Me Too movement also just sort of makes you want to be a little bit more protective of people and err on that side. And I am a strong believer that things will start to settle out, and I want to make an argument for this isn't all ridiculous, because I don't feel that way.
And this movie was originally called Safe Spaces.
Yeah.
Right? And did you change it because of the No Safe Spaces documentary? Did that enter into it?
No, I changed it for two reasons. One, because Kate and Justin made me feel really insecure about it.
What?
Whoa, wait, whoa.
I thought this was a safe space.
No, I think they had a similar allergy to it that I did, because I was always ambivalent about it, that it was gonna, I don't think anyone's like, hey, honey, let's get a babysitter because I want to go have a debate about this fucking subject. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna make you want to see a movie and it starts you off with your backup. So I think the idea of having something, and then also, I'm sure many of you have even sussed out, when you get distribution, you're pressured to have a movie that starts with the letter A because
Here's the real answer.
Yeah, but it's a new combination of both of those. So I wasn't that disappointed, I guess, is what I'm saying, to change it. But you guys didn't like it.
I was worried about it. It's true. I was, we thought it would be. We certainly thought it would be received in a much more controversial way, especially when we were doing press. And I remember we were so relieved when the interviewers kept asking what our favorite bagel order was. Like, oh, good. They're happy to answer that question. Just because we were afraid of sound bites. You know, we live in a soundbite culture, and the movie's when you begin to talk about it, you kind of open yourself up to some potentially problematic
There's a world
soundbites.
out there.
Yeah.
Justin, so
Soundbite from Kate.
That's why I like to stay quiet.
Justin, Josh is the kind of the central character. Everything sort of revolves around here, and yet everybody really, so vivid in the movie. It really stakes their claim to this family and all that. But how did you access Josh? You know, what is he like you in any way, or do you like him in any way? What did you like about him? What were you concerned about?
He's 2 inches taller than me, actually. And other than that.
The screen adds 2 inches every
No, Dan and I really hit it off pretty quickly, and we have very similar sensibilities and sense of humor, and I knew what a personal story was for him, and so I just tried to make myself as, available to the story and be present, and it helps to have actors like this who, they just make it really easy to be present, to be honest, and I'm also very close with my grandmother. I connected with a lot of the stuff, I come from a lot of my relatives are teachers, and I've heard stories of frustrating instances that I felt I could connect with.
The characters in the movie, it has a great rhythm to it. It's almost like it's very lived in. It's almost like this family. They all know each other. They talk over each other. They talk under each other. They know exactly what they're about. And what I loved about it is, as we all come from families with some kind of dysfunction one way or the other. Family members, they love each other. They can't always tell each other they love each other. There's a codependency about it. And you all did such a fantastic job showing that. And the closeness, and particularly, Richard, for your character, for Jeff, because he's so torn between his new family and his original family, and trying to do it. And you did such a fantastic job, just sort of straddling that. It's very difficult. How did you access that? What kind of experiences did you have personally? Let's get real personal. What did you?
I was watching it from the back. I wasn't sure I was going to come and watch it. Excuse me. And well, firstly, I really, really like it.
Thank you.
I think it's really well done, and I was noticing while I'm on it, I'm noticing the way New York City was shot. New York City was shot from a real middle-class, multi-generational perspective, and I really appreciated that. What was the question? Oh yeah, how did I access? It's funny because I think of myself as someone who is uncompromising. and who will say, you know, fuck off before I give an inch. And then you know, when I think about it truthfully, I realize that's not who I am at all at home. and I'm constantly trying to ameliorate a difficult situation. You know, I have one kid with somewhat special needs and a daughter who is hyper special in her needs. And just the little things of my life, I realized I'm much more like this guy. Let's put it this way, I'm much more, there's much more in common with him than I thought. And yeah.
You may have talked to, I'm sure along the way, you talked to Dan about this, but if you had to create a little backstory for Jeff, how he went from Fran Drescher's character to this younger, very difficult wife, second wife, how did that happen?
I think Fran Drescher is hot. So,
It was a bad move.
it was a really bad move. I don't remember how I worked all that out, to be honest. And I think my greatest gift these days as an actor is I completely forget the work and go on to the next project. But if I had to guess, you know, Fran's character in this movie is quite vocal and emotional and uncompromisingly self-concerned. And as hot as she is, I think that can be grating after a long while. And you know, even depending upon, regardless of how she may have been depicted in these particular scenes, there's clearly something about his newer wife that he loves. And his sense of obligation and his sense of responsibility to that choice, even if it's not working out, I think is it's about responsibility, and it's a great kind of juxtaposition to Justin's character, who seems to be not very responsible. So for that's another reason I kind of understood that was the direction to work on, was responsibility versus the lack of it.
Yeah, it's a really believable character, and you just did a great job with it. Kate, how about you? What finding this character? I mean, she's so vivid, and much of it obviously is in writing and directing, but she's such a vivid character. She's like this whirling dervish of a character. We love her, and she's just like, you just want to throttle her, and then you want to hug her. How did you find her?
Well, I'm an only child, and I never knew my grandmothers. People are crying, so I had to go. I had to imagine, but yeah. I mean, I think you know, just a kind of chaotic woman figuring out what she wants to do, or you know, where exactly she belongs. And I think it was really easy. Justin and I really got along, if I may.
You did.
Yeah, we really did. And so it was very fun it just felt like we had a very natural ability to hang out and talk, and it was really easy. It wasn't like, oh, I have to pretend this person is my brother and there's no connection. You know, it actually felt, we really liked talking to each other. So thank God for that. So that was felt very natural. And yeah, I think just the way we shot it felt casual in a really great way. It felt very,
we shot a lot in New York. The locations were great.
Yeah.
There was a frustrating element because it was such a low budget movie. They couldn't shut down. We had the diner. The people were eating and stuff. You know, we couldn't lock down streets or anything. So there were people constantly. And in New York, if a sweet PA goes up to you and says, "I'm sorry, could you just walk across the street?" People are like, "Fuck you! I gotta go to my, this is my sidewalk." And so there were a lot of like. Whatever. There was just elements that we had to kind of work around, but it made it more. Yeah, but we got along so well, and Mike Godard, who plays my brother. We've known each other. My other friend is here. We've known each other for 15 years, and we're all we got really lucky.
You totally believe that you're siblings, which is great. Obviously, you had a great chemistry.
Oh, good, thank
We really want it to be like a plausible visual family, which is kind of rare in movies when you're gambling to make offers on actors or whatever, but I am kind of proud that they seem like a plausible, visually related family.
Well, I remember when you told me Dan's actual nieces were played with the kids.
Yeah, my nieces were in the film, and these guys were great at like pretending the cameras weren't rolling and kind of messing with them and getting natural behavior, and then tricking them because they were just better in rehearsals. They kind of knew their lines, but they would freeze up a
They
second.
would
we
freeze
said
up
action.
as soon as they heard action. You know, they were so fun to kind of play with, and then Dan would say, "Okay, action," and they would just really tighten up. And so we started the camera guys, we kind of got into a rhythm. We knew when they were rolling, and we give each other some sign. We tricked them basically. We totally manipulated them. And so then we try to sneak some of our dialogue into this. Just we're just talking, we're just chit chatting, and you could see them kind of catching on at a certain point. Like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. But they were so sweet.
I don't relate. The camera doesn't make me nervous. Just behave, and then there's a camera there.
Dan, so David's daughters were your nieces?
They were my actual nieces, and of course it's a thrill to have them in the film. The other kid, Tyler Wallatus, he's like a pro, and was a much more mature person in a young man's body. But they feel like my nieces in real life in the movie, which I'm really proud of, and I think it's because these guys just seem like real aunts and uncles with them, and they have that fun of no responsibility and pure rock star older aunt and uncleness.
Great.
Yeah.
Courtney, so to shoot a movie like this on the streets of New York, what was the shooting schedule? How long was it?
It was 16 days.
16, yeah, that's amazing. So to shoot a movie like this, 16 days, New York City, was it all New York City? Did you?
There was Long Island,
Long
like
Island.
for the funeral scene, yeah.
Yeah, so what's the biggest challenge, aside from the obvious, but what's,
I think like, the first 3 days, these guys had to shoot overnights in Dan's apartment, and we had to like make sure that we weren't waking up any neighbors, and with a camera crew and just a crew, and one bathroom, and and no trailers, just being like, this is what this is. But yeah, I mean, I think that was probably the biggest struggle, or maybe in the school. I mean, everything, the whole movie.
it's a miserable 16 days.
Yeah, 2 years. No, no, it's it was. Oh yeah.
So with the movie business has changed so much over time, and film distribution has changed so much over time, independent film and all of that, and yet there's still so many ways to see movies and access movies. So you have a movie that's opening theatrically as well as video on demand at the same time, so it gives a very broad way to see the movie. What's your when you I mean we never know when we make a film how it's going to turn out, like what its life is going to be, what its future is going to be, unless it's the Avengers or something. But going into this, did you have any thoughts about what the future was going to be, or just you make it, get on the festival circuit?
I've done this enough where maybe this is like sad pragmatism, but this is exactly what I thought would be the case. Like where I made something that I was proud of, and I'd be grateful to have it just be accessible anywhere in the country and the world, and I had total creative control, and we live in a world where hopefully a movie like that can just have a life, forever. So this is kind of what I, you hope for everything, but then this is what I would have guessed, and I'll take it.
Right. Well, ultimately, you just want people